What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Yesterday's video, I talked about a specific statistic that I did see on Twitter. This showed the kinds of games that gamers play on the different platforms. So they looked at Steam, they looked at PlayStation, and they also looked at Xbox. Now, this is not surprising because these particular data sets usually come out over time and they show mostly the same result. It's weird because let's go ahead and check it out, and we'll probably take a closer look at this just so that we can be a lot more accurate in terms of the depiction of what's going on. If we look at the PlayStation side, what you're going to realize is Call of Duty, Fortnite, EA Sports games have maintained the number 1, 2, and 3 rank in terms of their play, their highest play time. This is both on the PlayStation and also if you look very carefully with Xbox, but the EA Sports game kind of goes down because for some reason GTA 5 and Minecraft just want to occupy 4, 5, and 6. They just kind of argue for who's going to be there. Minecraft keeps itself in the top 10. Valorant also keeps itself in that top 10 spot. However you want to look at it, you're not seeing from both parties single player titles in terms of the high production, high value flagship games. Even when you come and look on PC, you would see something that wants to maybe be similar, but then out of nowhere, a game like Baldur's Gate 3 would then basically stick around. I think the modding of the game, games like Elden Ring, which does have a small PvP aspect to it, replayability, modding, all kinds of things like speedrun communities and all of that stuff kind of keeps some games on PC going in a different way just because of the way the technology is. You can get save files, you can, create save files. There's just so many things you can do on a PC version of Elden Ring that you can't do on console. So I'm not surprised that Elden Ring is actually showing up here, whereas it's not showing up on the others. So this is just an interesting way to see how players on all sides interact with games. I say all that to tell everyone that I think I have figured out what Microsoft's strategy is in this particular move to take its games to console. Now, it sounds crazy like, hey, who do you think you are that you're talking about you figuring out some trillion-dollar company's strategy? Well, it's not rocket science because it does seem to lend credence to some things that have taken place on those platforms. What I'm talking about is the snuffing out of PlayStation titles at launch. It may seem like a big stretch. However, if these games are actually the top played games on the PlayStation platform, then who's to say that other games at some point in time may not be able to or be able to create a competitive pressure for a PlayStation game or at least trend alongside a PlayStation game. What I'm talking about and what I'm speaking about in this regard is if we go to PlayStation Store right now, it will give us the exact picture that I'm trying to portray for you guys, which is the top 10 games in my region right now on the PlayStation Store don't necessarily seem to reflect that any PlayStation game is getting any kind of traction in this regard. Granted, most PlayStation games are not coming out this year. However, when you look, you're going to see those games on the list, and then you're going to see the occasional single-player game that's generating excitement. In this case, it's Black Myth Wukong. So, in my opinion, seeing how Xbox wants to start taking its games to the PlayStation platform, I think they want to make their games rank on these lists over time. Because as the games show up, what they'll do is they'll appeal to those who like the single player games. Even if a PlayStation game is coming out alongside, what's also going to happen is they're now both going to be in competition. Now, many of you have seen sometimes when a new single player game is coming out, even though Call of Duty is coming out with it, there's always going to be excitement for the Call of Duty game, for the sports games, but the single player game many times will make its way into the top tier games. It is this top tier strategy that I think Xbox is trying to leverage. They're going to now leave their Xbox platform. They're going to hop over the console, the plastic, the box, and they're going to make their way to another ground, a ground where, for the most part, nothing seems to have really been contested for the most part. And what's going to happen is they're going to start playing in this realm. In fact, if we take it a step further and we look at, say, the pre-orders in terms of the PlayStation games right now, you'll see that this is actually populated by a lot of third-party games. Yes, we see the regular Black Ops, FC 25, which is the soccer game. We see the basketball titles. But then down the line, and this is almost inevitable, you see games like the Dragon Age Vanguard game. Veilguard, sorry. You see Space Marine, which is another game. It's not necessarily only single player. It has PvE. It's co-op. But then you see the Star Wars Outlaws game because it's a new game coming. People want to play new games. So if people want to play these new games and people are looking forward to these new games, regardless of what people may be yelling on the internet, I think Xbox has seen a platform that has a user base of 60 plus million console holders, and potentially, if they really want to dig in, 100 million PlayStation 4s. And if they can leverage that, then they really do create an interesting market pressure on the PlayStation platform. The response that PlayStation is going to have to give in this regard is to continue to make expensive games that will now have to compete with this. And I don't know if PlayStation has that in their purview as a strategy of theirs, but it doesn't necessarily seem to me like it's plausible for them to be able to respond fast enough, seeing how the library and the catalog and the production quantity of Xbox has now somehow jumped in size. Now, this was an artificial jump because of the acquisition of Bethesda. It's just Bethesda alone, and then Activision Blizzard. I think what we're going to see is Bethesda games are going to be coming to PlayStation. I think significantly, they really are that publisher that requires the cross-platform sales capacity to be able to continue to thrive. In the case of Activision, they don't need any, platform exclusivity. They have always been cross-platform for most of their games, which has made them all that money and can sustain them as, say, a sub-publisher under Microsoft. So I think Bethesda games are going to be showing up. So it's not surprising that the Indiana Jones game is being rumored right now to be the game that's going to be showing up. But I think most importantly is the metric that a game like Hogwarts Legacy and another game like Elden Ring actually set. These two games, as single-player games, were able to sell significant copies because they were available everywhere. Not any of these PlayStation games that have come out in the last few years have been able to pull off that kind of sales in the same amount of time. It takes them much longer. And so even as it's taking them much longer, these third-party games are eventually going to continue to stay ahead of them. I think that's where Xbox wants to now put its games. It wants to place its games not just in front of 30 million Xbox owners or 27 million, nor does it want to place its games only just in front of, say, dozens more millions of PC players. It also wants to go into the PlayStation platform and now start to compete. Now, whether or not they're trying to purposefully snuff out the PlayStation games, that's just my opinion. However, we've seen a lot of these games actually do that. We've seen Call of Duty games basically obliterate everything. Yes, it will make PlayStation money. However, it will give Microsoft a bigger pot based on the fact that they just sell more copies of the game. This strategy is not something that is surprising to anybody. It's just one that makes sense as a market starts to get more and more competitive, and as one of the big players is trying to change the game. Xbox is trying to change the game. In fact, they've changed the game. They are now basically deciding what rules needs to be, followed by just playing by their own rules. And so very soon, people are going to stop looking at the PlayStation, old school way of doing things, put an exclusive on your console, and then make people try to come buy your console and start asking for PlayStation. What are you guys doing to try to expand your sales? Don't worry, very soon, shareholders are going to start asking questions too. Only a matter of time before you start to see how this strategy may be effective. Thanks so much for watching the video. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. If you disagree with me, that's fine. We can talk about it in our comments. We can basically kind of like hear each other out. I'd love to hear you guys' opinions because at the end of the day, this is a very interesting conversation to, engage in because, why not? It's one of those things where, where and what direction are we going in the gaming industry today? And again, cheers. Those PlayStation players who are looking forward to Xbox games, you're more than likely going to be getting not just a few of them, but a lot of them. So this is a good thing, in my opinion anyways. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys so much, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.